in this episode.
Should I go do this? Should I go do a PBR, Prep Baseball Report Showcase, or a perfect game, or should I go to a college camp or whatnot? And I've always explained it this way. It's not like you're going to go and attend one of these showcases and get a scholarship out of it.
Let's finish it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is Spiker Helms, and this show is about people, culture, and how to create a winning lifestyle. Today, we are going to be talking about showcases. More importantly, they are a pretty penny, and we want to give you some tactics and strategies on how to leverage those showcases and make them work for you. At the surface level, I think a lot of people don't execute properly on showcases, and yes, they are valuable. Don't think that this podcast is saying that they're not valuable. They are valuable. You do need to do them because it does provide you some firepower, and it also gets the word out of your skills and who you are as a player. But before we jump into the conversation, we have Evan Pratte to my right. We have David Birkby straight ahead. And the conversation is opened up because of Mr. Birkby's tweet.
It's a thread.
Oh, sorry, thread.
Tweet means that it was a one tweet.
Sorry, the glorious words of David Birkby coming from Almighty High is a thread, not a single tweet. Go ahead.
Well, let's talk first off. So for the listeners who don't know, a showcase, there's a lot of showcase companies out there, but a showcase is like a day where a player gets to come out. It predominantly happens in high school. You're starting to see it trickle down to the lower age groups, 13, 14U a little bit, but they get to come out and basically go through a pro style workout. They get video, and they get to showcase their skills. And
there's a lot of this is why I think showcases have been built so much in the last couple of years, or not the last couple of years, last decade, is because you have people that are on the fence. You have trolls, then you have people that love them. And the trolls will say, well, I just don't want that showcase kid, which they are absolutely 100% right. It has promoted showcase even more when they've said that. What I do agree with them on is that, yeah, we don't want a showcase kid where you're just literally going out and promoting, because there's two types of things that you need to do. There's promotion and there's you actually playing the game. You got to do both. If you don't do promotion, how do they know who you are? So if you're just literally going to the ballpark for a tournament, yes, you will be seen, but you're not maximizing the ability of putting your name as a household name in the minds of the coaches.
Before we jump into this, you said something real quick. When you were recruiting, explain what a showcase kid is.
Well, to me, a showcase kid is basically very limited. They can run fast. They can throw hard. They can hit the ball wherever they want to hit the ball. But most of the time, they can't execute in the game. They get into it against the pitcher, and they don't know how to adjust. They don't know how to do this, that, and the other. And as a coach, you're pulling your hair out because this kid looks like the best thing since sliced bread, and he does everything well physically. Now you get into a game, and he's over and can't throw a strike, and you're going, what in the world's going on?
Well, we see it all the time, and we've talked about this a million times before. And before we kind of talk about how to leverage, don't sell yourself all out just for those showcase numbers. Like, that's pretty important to understand, because you go to a showcase to get numbers. You go to a showcase to get some video, to get your name out there. But then sometimes we're watching some of these videos or going to a showcase and watch some of these players, and they are swinging so out of control to get a high number on an exit velocity. Or they're coming unglued on a fastball, and it's chest high, but they get their number, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the game.
Or the infielder that takes 9 extra steps to try to throw it hard to the radar gun.
Which doesn't showcase well.
The guy just ran down the line, and he's safe.
Yeah.
Or it's the catcher that has a 2-0 pop, but technically in a game it's more of a 2-1, 2-2.
Well, he's also standing up when he catches it.
Yep. I mean, which is hard because, like, NFL combines, it's pretty clear cut. Like, do you run fast? Can you push people farther? How hard do you throw the football? Or where are you able to locate
Bench
the football?
press and
It's a more clear-cut example in combines. Again, quarterbacks have a little bit. I think quarterbacks are more in that baseball range where it's like we don't really know what we have until we get him out onto the field. But you don't see football players not going away like, oh yeah, I can't do the showcase. I just have to play games.
Yeah.
They still go out to
Well, I used to look at numbers, and numbers were fine, were great, but that's a very small slice of the pie.
Right.
Very small slice of the pie. And if I have 9 players out there that know what they're doing, have incredible baseball IQ, I'm going to win more times than not than that guy that throws it 1,000 miles an hour or does whatever really, really, really good. My other 9 guys that may not be as skilled as you, they're going to find ways to exploit your weaknesses and win the game. So it's a part of it, yes. But as a coach, you're looking at that. It's a snapshot. Okay, this is kind of who this kid is. Now let me go watch him and see if he does the other stuff really well.
Yeah, I've always viewed it, and I've tried to explain this to parents and players who are on the fence of, well, should I go do this? Should I go do a PBR, Prep Baseball Report Showcase, or a perfect game, or should I go to a college camp or whatnot? And I've always explained it this way. It's not like you're going to go and attend one of these showcases and get a scholarship out of it. If you throw 95, that might happen. But for 99.9% of the players who attend it, if you get some results that you like, and maybe you're getting some of those results that could be deemed entering the recruiting atmosphere in terms of those numbers, it's basically a conversation starter for a college coach. It basically is something of a verification for them to look at to say, okay, let's take the next step. Let's maybe go watch this kid play. Maybe we'll respond to a phone call, or maybe send them a college camp notice or something like that.
Even if you're that player that don't get those numbers that you like or want, or have the better numbers or close to the same numbers that this guy that hits it 95 miles an hour off the bat or throws it 1,000 miles, whoever, if you're not even close to those numbers, that's still not bad. It's one of those things. If I'm a college coach and I'm doing my due diligence and know what I'm looking for, man, that guy does it really, really well. Okay, may not throw it as hard as this guy, but man, he knows what he's doing with his feet. He's always in the right position. Boy, that swing is solid. It's going to come here, and once he gets a little stronger, a little more physical, a little more experience, those are the things that I'm looking for as a college coach. I can tell that you're looking at the future on these dudes and then trying to figure out if they can. So even if you don't have the numbers, and coaches are looking at you and can kind of tell, that guy's going to be pretty good. He's only throwing 78 miles an hour, but that delivery, man, that arm,
that's gonna be right.
It's going to pop here in a year. You can see that as a coach. So don't get discouraged if you're not that guy with those numbers right now. And if you keep working at those things will come. Even if they don't come, you're still going to be a good college baseball player if coaches are really doing their jobs.
I think the biggest thing is for players to identify 3 things in a showcase. 1, use it as a recruiting tool. 2, I get to test my abilities against other players. And
really
3, get an unbiased opinion. Because again, if you're part of a club, it's going to be biased to a certain degree. Parents are going to be super biased. Your coaches are going to be super biased. Now you're going to go in front of a person that has no idea who you are and actually give you feedback on, this is what I see.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they don't have a day-to-day communication with you. They're not your coach. They're not going to go see over the summer, more than likely. It's just they're there to evaluate you that day.
And their goal is to, 1, it's a business. I got to make profit.
Sure.
2, I want to bring more customers back into the showcase. And 3, I'm going to make sure that I give you a clear-cut like who you are, because, again, that's my name on the line, which is super important to understand as a player. So go ahead and go through your thread.
Well, let's talk about it first from a cost standpoint. So PBR, Prep Baseball Report, generally speaking, what does that run you, like $250, $300, something?
Somewhere in that area.
And you get, your exit velo, your 60, your pitching velo, your position velo, you get video, you get profile, you get TrackMan at some of their events, which is like that digital, what is it, radar base?
Radar base. So kind of give people an example. So Rapsodo and TrackMan are 2 devices that are able to track velocity, spin rate, distance, you name it. Can literally track almost everything that you would need to know from a player's standpoint. The TrackMan is radar based. Rapsodo is all camera based. Now I can go into more specifics on it, like what I think is more reliable, but that's not part of this conversation.
Well,
so that's what those are.
The idea is you get some cool feedback, some cool technology use, and then I think at the end of the day, you also get onto their ranking systems to kind of see where you stack up against your peers. Perfect Game, another notable showcase company, they're quite a bit higher, I believe. I think they might be even in the atmosphere of like $400 or $500.
$400, $500.
Yes.
Just depends on what showcase.
And then there could be
you're
like,
going.
and there could be more added on to that.
Correct.
And then college camps are somewhere normally below both of those from a showcase, not a pure showcase standpoint, but from a cost standpoint. So a lot of parents look at that and they're trying to justify in their mind, why would we spend that money? Especially a lot of them who are already a part of a club, spending a lot of money, spending money on training, spending money throughout the summers on travel. And now they get thrown and they get marketed through emails, all of these showcases that their kid could attend. And a lot of them are wondering, why should I do it? Now, we've talked about from a standpoint of how to get in front of a college recruiter, but we haven't necessarily talked about, and what I tried to get out in the form of my thread, was all the different ways you can leverage that one-day experience to get your name out there. And so I kind of went specifically into some actionable points, and we can kind of deep dive. I don't need to run through all 6 right away, but we can kind of run through each of them if you want and kind of talk about, how to absolutely maximize what that 3 hours you're going to spend on one day at a showcase and how you can get the most bang for your buck in terms of actually getting your name out there and just gaining valuable experiences.
Well, before we start on that, when do you think that people should consider showcases, especially from Evan Pratt?
Well, especially that freshman year for sure. 8th grade, okay, but especially at freshman year, what you're trying to do is create a library for coaches. And these Perfect Games, Prep Baseball Report, whoever else that does the showcases and do the video, they create a library for you. And what they do is, what college coaches do is, PBR is like an encyclopedia, and I get an email from whoever out of the blue. The first thing I do is go to PBR because I know most of the kids are on there, and that would give me a quick snapshot of who that player is if they haven't sent me a video already. So I know that the PBR numbers are legit, they're valid, and I can rely on those guys to give me that snapshot, that front porch view of this player and kind of who he is type of thing. So in that 8th grade, 9th grade, basically if you do one a year and update your stuff, that's probably the bare minimum of what you need to do. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing it a couple, every 6 months if you're, gaining strength, gaining leverage, body's changing. There's nothing wrong with jumping out there and, bumping up your numbers again and, updating more video. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That helps the coaches. But once a year is usually pretty good.
So I'm trying to look up the Perfect Game pricing. Man, it is really hard to find.
They kind of hide that a little bit.
They do. But yeah, I would. My assumption would be that they're in that 400 to 500 range, and PBR's just a little bit below that.
Yep. But so anyhow, so let's say you go in and you attend one of these showcases. Like for example, we just hosted a huge PBR Scout Day for our Tigers here in St. Louis. We had guys from 7 different states come in. We had about 165 players. And we really wanted to make sure they understood all the different ways that they could take that one day of experience and totally maximize and get the most for them. So first thing I said, so we had our staff there, which not all clubs do this and not all showcases do this, but we had our staff there, and myself, Evan, Spiker, Jaws. We even had another
Buckley.
one of our players who's really good with photography out there videoing our players, whether it be in small clips or long video form, and trying to actively promote it during that day. You obviously get a little bit more video that's edited from the showcase company themselves, but there's many different ways you can take that video and leverage it. So what I first thing I said was, whether it's your parent, maybe it's a player that is a friend of yours, get some video of that day of you participating and then push it out, whether it's through an email to a college coach, maybe it's putting it out on your Twitter profile or anything else. Put out the metrics that you know of that day. Put out some video. Again, saying, hey, I just attended a PBR showcase, and tag PBR and tag your club and make sure that they retweet it. And just, again, the more eyeballs and visibility you can gain from that one tweet, it helps.
Well, because if you just rely on PBR to give you that video, that's fine. You're going to be in that database. But at the same time, being able to take that video and repurpose it for social media. I do that constantly for the Tigers,
Yep.
but for players, sometimes they don't think that through. Or, oh, thanks PBR, you just gave me this video, and then instead of just like, let me just pull that video and then repurpose it and put it out there on social media.
Well, and let's think about it this way. Let's say you just go to the showcase, and that's all you do, okay? And then they come out and they create your video and update your numbers. If you don't promote it at all or do anything to that side of things, you are literally hoping that a college coach will actively go in and search, find your name, and then drill down and find your video. That is the only way.
They don't know who you are.
They'll know the big guys.
They'll know the big guys. But going into a showcase or a tournament and being humble and saying, I'm a nobody. Yeah. I got to figure out how to be a somebody.
Well, again, and don't think that I've not seen yet on the PBR or Perfect Game, like on what they're telling you they're providing. They're not providing exposure. Mm-mm. It's not on there. They're not saying we will actively promote you. That's not their job. They're just giving you the tools of promotion, if you will, right? So if you just go and expect that, well, now my name's on PBR, so a college coach is going to find it, and then he's going to magically love me and call me. Well, that just doesn't happen.
As a college coach, you don't have time to sit around and fumble through a bunch of list of names.
Right.
You just don't have time. Literally, you don't have time to do that. So you got to get yourself out there, like you said.
Yep.
Do you look at the top numbers from those showcases?
Sure, certainly. The guys that would catch your attention, the 95s or the whatever numbers of the 6, 7, 60s or whatever. Certainly, yeah, those things will. I'm going to cruise through and say, oh, who did well this time? But I'm not going to see the middle of the road guy. I'm not going to, unless that guy reaches out to me or tags me on the Twitter or whatever it is. If I'm a coach, it's going to be hard for me to. There are 165 players there. I'm not going to go deep dive on all 165. I won't do it. Won't have time.
You've got to promote.
Yep.
That's where it comes down to. And I'm thinking of, these are extreme examples, so don't take these as literal, but they are good examples of like knowing how athletes have promoted themselves. Muhammad Ali was one of those athletes that was very active in being with the reporters and being with the media and trying to be all access and trying to find a camera to get himself in front. Now, the boxing community is a totally different community, and you have to build your name to be able to get those big fights. Hence, what's going on now, I don't agree with everything that Jake Paul does, but he is a very good promoter, and he fought the best fighter of our generation just literally half a year ago. And he's a nobody technically in the boxing community. So if you kind of think about that from the baseball community standpoint, like, yeah, people know who you are in your network, but does the college coach know who you are? And these showcase companies are really giving you the tools and the media outlet to use that as leverage and put it out on your accounts. And yeah, coaches still have to get there, but if you're part of a club that has a decent following, you're probably gonna get the retweet and get the notice.
Well, I've put this example out there a lot to players. Your recruiting process is a lot like trying to find a job in the real world. You're going to float your resume out to a bunch of people, but then if you just only do that, like if you just only attend a showcase and don't follow up and don't try to contact them and show interest and all these other things, that resume better be really, 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 really good, or you better throw 95, because you need multiple touch points. You need to get your name out in front of these coaches 10, 20, 30 times so that literally they get forced to be like, man, who is this John Smith kid? He's emailed me 10 times. I like his videos. Like, who is he? Can you tell me more? That's how it kind of works. So all of these are leveraged touch points to gain more visibility, to get your name to be continuously in front of those college coaches.
So in episodes past, we've explained how we would kind of like a tactical guide on how we would do it, and it was during COVID when we actually started coming out hard with that, because one, we wanted to make sure that athletes knew that it was in their control to get recruited, which a lot of players executed, and they did get picked up. Now, as time has passed, we started seeing more of what people were posting. Also, Joe Burrow came out and had a really good point on social media. And before I play this clip, I want to stress that when we said use the weight room and you show you what's happening during your workout, yes, but you still have to work out.
Right.
Like, you just can't go out there and like you look the same every single time and you're doing a couple of drills. Like, there has to be some type of change. So I'm going to play the Joe Burrow clip, and then I want to get Coach Pratte's take, and then I want to get Birkby's take as well.
Focus on getting better. Focus on, don't have a workout and go and post it on Instagram the next day and then go and sit on your butt for 4 days and everyone thinks you're working hard, but you're really not. Work in silence. Don't show everybody what you're doing. Let your game on Friday nights and Saturday nights and Sunday nights show all the hard work that you put in. Don't worry about all that social media stuff.
Right.
One thing that I have kind of lived by, followed, try to do as much as possible, and ask the question all the time to myself is, well, what are you doing when nobody's watching you? That's a huge thing for me. And it's you're only the guy that looks in the mirror. I mean, you're the only guy. You know what's going on. If you want to get to some place, you're going to do it. If you're going to be half of whatever, you're not going to get there. It's a real simple thing. If you really want to do it, then you're not going to be at your lesson with your coach. You're going to come in the off days that you don't have a lesson and get after it, or find a place to get after, whatever it is. You're gonna do that on your own. If you're at home or wherever, if you want to do something, then you've got to be able to get after it in an individual way when nobody's watching, nobody's looking, and then that's when you see all of that improvement. Joe Burrow is a perfect example. He goes from college, Ohio State to LSU. Okay, he finds a way on the best college football team probably ever, wins a national championship. How does that happen? That guy probably worked his can. We didn't see it, but he probably worked his can off. Goes to Cincinnati. They have been terrible. Football team, terrible. What happens? They get to the Super Bowl. Why? Because his work ethic, I'm sure, not being there, not even knowing Joe Burrow, but I'm sure his work ethic and what he's done in the offseason by himself. Somebody probably saw him throwing balls in a trash can in their indoor facility at midnight sometime. And it's one guy that leads me back to my Missouri days, Brad Smith, quarterback at Missouri, when Coach Pinkel first got there. Brad Smith did that. I'm in the indoor late at night one time. For some reason, there's Brad Smith with a trash can trying to figure out how to pass because he was just a runner. He played the NFL for 10, 15 years, but they wanted to make him a passing quarterback. I'm going to try to figure out a way to do it. He's in there by himself throwing balls in the trash can. That's one example that I live by. And if you're really wanting to do it, have the drive to do it, and expect to be successful, you're going to do those things on your own to show that improvement, show that where you really want the wantness to do it.
But I got nothing else to say on that. I mean, it's true. It's you've been around a million more players than I have. But the guys who are always successful, I mean, barring this conversation, the guys who are always successful and win on the field continuously are always the guys who you don't have to tell to go do things. They're just always the guys that are going to take the information that's given to them and then they go run wild with it.
Self-motivated, self-driven.
Self-starters is what I've called them always.
You don't have to coach those guys. Those are the fun guys to be around because you know and you can count on those guys to do that, and that's literally few and far between. It really is. It's easy to see and know who those guys are, but you're continually having to, hey, let's go, come on. You're like going, dude, figure it out. Let's go.
Well, it's kind of one thing to kind of parlay what we're talking about now back into a showcase because kind of that's the title of this episode. Another thing too is take your experiences from that showcase and then kind of find out what you need to go work on. Like you said it best, and I think one of the best things about going to a showcase is you see where you stack up. If you see, hey, I'm lacking strength in these areas, and I might be really good on the defensive side, but I'm not really strong and I'm not producing enough power to get noticed. Well, what do you then need to go do? Right? And then take that information and run with it, because they give you answers. Those rankings, whether or not, everybody can go this or that way on it and say, oh, these are good or these are bad, or how could you say this kid's better, whatnot. It's still someone's opinion. That opinion does matter. And take it and run with it for whatever it's worth.
I lean more towards the work in silence. That's how my career was. But then I also think what would happen if I was in the social media world where I knew that coaches were on it? I think that's where I would actually promote some of the stuff, and then I would actually show my personality as a person. Now, again, I'm more extroverted than most when it comes to that. I know there's a lot of players out there that are introverted, but I would try to show my personality because I know that is what's going to attract a college coach. Be like, oh man, I really like that.
Well, so just to go through some of these other ones, a lot of it is like thanking the showcase company for being there. Or pulling your profile in a screenshot once it's updated, or literally highlighting a strength or a new PR that you get. And I give a bunch of different videos and emailing these out to college coaches. A lot of this is meaning that you're going to have to put your name out there. Now, a lot of players have issues with that. They think that that's bragging. They think that that's being, too much out there, and that they're trying to be all about themselves, right? And it's a team sport, obviously, right? And they're like, well, I don't want to put myself out there all that much. Like, they're humble. They're way too humble about it. I'd rather you look at it this way. It's you are a brand. And if your goal is to get to the next level and play college baseball, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and promote yourself as a brand. It's not bragging. It's not necessarily saying, look at me, but it's you more so being proud of all the work that you've put in, what you're currently accomplishing.
It's no different than newspapers back in early 2000s, late 90s. The only difference is that you're the one that has control over the newspapers.
Well, and let's talk to the guy who spent 26 years in college baseball. You've seen a million of those guys out there. What was your perception?
Yeah, I mean, you're basically putting yourself out there as a kid, and I'm not thinking of it as bragging or any. The humble guy's great. That's fine, but if I don't know anything about you, I don't know anything about you. Literally,
right.
I want to know some things about you. And whether you're lifting weights on Monday and Tuesday, whether you're hitting, throwing, whatever it is, I want to know some nuggets about, because obviously the rules in recruiting, I can't call you all the time every day when you're non-contactable. So give the coaches something to literally, that's what okay, now it comes time to contact you. And I have a background as a coach. I'm going to be more willing to have a great conversation with you because I know more things about you. I understand that you're like this or this. You had an injury. Hey, what happened? I can talk to you about your injury, whatever it is, types of stuff. And hey, you know what? I watched that video whenever you were working out and you were hitting against that guy before that season. I remember seeing that you really were on those fastballs or whatever the situation is. That gives me as a coach more ammo, more evaluation. I understand. And so it is super important these days. Now, back 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have that. It wasn't.
Well, this
it was hard to do.
Here.
But now, with all of this stuff, it's like I can sit in my office as a college coach and evaluate a ton of guys every day. It's awesome.
Was there anything like non-skill side that you would see players post that kind of caught your attention, good, bad? Well, let's talk about the good. From a good standpoint?
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, obviously you would be, whatever community event, community service stuff, those are always really good because he gets it types of things. It's more likes and dislikes. It's not really good or bad. It's just like, okay, this guy likes this type of stuff, or he doesn't like to do this, or his favorite team is the Steelers, or that type of thing like we talked about before. It just gives you a little bit more background and it lets that college coach inside a little bit more of who you are as a person. And that's more important than the skills or any of that other stuff. And like I said, the college coaches are after good people. They're after good players. Well, number one, they obviously need good players to win, but they're also after good people. They don't want the dudes that are going to be, not real good off the field. They want the good kids.
Yeah, I've seen some of those, and I can't reference right back the specific ones, but I'm always on social media, so I follow some of our players, and sometimes I've seen some posts that I've looked at, and I've had to literally stop and be like, that guy gets it. That's one of those where he's letting you into who he is, and he's really talking about like his personal wants, beliefs, like what he wants out of his future, what he's willing to do to go get it.
Well, Thatcher does that to a certain degree.
Yeah, and getting back to the showcase part of it, that's where you see those guys move around in those 1 minute videos. You can kind of tell the guys have a direction and a drive and a passion for that in those 1 minute deals. And you really can. You can really see it. It's really easy. The guys that go through the motions or not, okay. But you can kind of tell which guys really want to get it and which guys don't. It's not that hard to see when you're kind of looking for what you're really kind of looking for. So the showcases are great for that, to give me that 1 minute glimpse into who you are.
So how do you know when you go over the top?
When guys aren't executing stuff like they would do in a game. Give me game activity. The game experience, the game evaluation is the biggest thing for college coaches. All this, the showcases and everything else is a front door to who you are. Gives me an idea of what you do skill wise.
I mean, from a promotional standpoint, when is it over the top?
Never is. I mean,
that's the funny thing.
Fire it out there for that part of it. Yeah, give me overflow me with information. Make me as a college coach tell you yes or no.
Well, tell me though, what about the curls? You said that before.
Yeah, I mean the one thing for me as a coach, I don't need to see you do 9,000 reps in the weight room. I don't need to see that. I mean, it's great, it's fine. Okay, I'm working hard, but I don't.
It goes back to the Joe Burrow thing.
I don't care if you're lifting 900 pounds. I really don't. What are you doing in a game? What are you doing executing wise? Okay, great, you're lifting. Okay. Everybody lifts. Everybody get in the weight room. I don't need to see you put 9 different plates on, do a squat of whatever. It's great. If you can get a PR, yes, fire that out there. But I don't need to see it 20 times.
I think the one thing that is kind of a turnoff to me when I see it out there, when players are promoting themselves, but then they're either bashing other players or overly saying like, I did better than these guys. Be about yourself. Be about putting your information out there and promoting yourself. Like if you have to sit there, like don't compare yourself to others, to demean others to promote yourself. I have seen that in the past. I don't like that. I can't imagine a college coach would like that. I mean, you can answer on that one, but that's kind of one of the turnoffs that I've seen.
Well, I think also from a copy standpoint, which is just written word on the video, just keep it super simple, like PR benched whatever, right? Or PR 90 EV. That's all you really need to put. You don't have to put thank you for everything. I love you so much. Please recruit me. I'm here for you. I will show up to your front door with chocolates. Just sign me now. Like, yeah, thanking people is great, but just put it out there.
I will say one other thing too, because this just came to mind. Parents, it is all great and well that you try to help promote your son. But if you're the one who's making the initial post or you're the one who's actively promoting it for them, that is not a great look on the player.
Yeah, or even quote tweeting them or anything like that. Let it be the club, let it be other teammates. Let it be different coaches, but you're a fan. You're sitting there right next to them and cheering them on.
Be the support system. Be the one who teaches them or pushes them to make the post, to make to put themselves out there, to say that it's okay to do so. Be that person. I think when, at least my standpoint, when I see a parent do that, and I know where they're coming from, first off. I know you're only coming from a place of love and you're trying to help.
Again, I know there's probably some listeners that have done that. Don't feel bad. Like we're all learning here, so don't feel like, oh crap, I just screwed it up for my kid. The beautiful thing about social media, the best thing about social media is that it is a fire hose. So after one day, that tweet is dead unless someone goes into your profile and starts searching. So don't feel like it's I just screwed up everything for my kid. That's not the case. Just know that, hey, we're all in here learning. Like, again, back when we did the tactical guide, I was all for pushing out weight room videos and all of that. But again, that was during COVID. So, because we couldn't
Yep.
do much.
Yep.
Now we're at that point where COVID's kind of pushed away, and we're in a different world now. And now it's more of put out your PRs, put out your big highlight videos, put out the game footage. That's the stuff that works.
There's obviously a role for parents, but just for parents, just understand that the relationship is going to be between the coach and the player. He's the one going to college. He's the one playing. Let them sink or swim with that relationship, and then find their way. And then the parents will come in on the backside and help out and be supportive as all get out.
So to kind of wrap everything up, pro showcase, we're really pro for showcase, but do it in the right way. Make sure that it's a good third party PBR, perfect game that actually provides numbers, and there's a history behind that showcase. 14, 15U seems like a pretty good age. The 13s and 12s is kind of like, it's more of an experience. It's not really recruiting. So if you just want to enjoy the experience and go to a hot, warm weather climate, go for it. But besides that, it's pretty much, that's not for recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, I would wrap it up this way. If you look at a showcase as a one-day event that costs $300 to $500 and that's it, you're probably not going to be super active in wanting to do it. If you look at how many different touch points and views and how many more times your name can get out there if you leverage it the correct way, like for example, a lot of our players on a lot of their videos that they were putting out just in the last 2 weeks have gotten 10,000 plus views on their videos combined. That's 10,000 times, whether it's a college coach or another player or a showcase company or anybody, they've seen your name, right? And that counts for something. And again, it's just like a job interview series. Like you need to continuously reach out and communicate and show interest and get your name in front of them so many times that they're almost forced to come watch you play.
Last actually point that I want to put out there. What do you tell the parent that thinks, well, he's not ready for that?
Then he's probably not ready for that. But again, like we said before, you're building that library. And me as a college coach, if he's a freshman or an eighth grader or even a sophomore, I want to see what he looks like the next year, the following year. And if I don't know what he looks like prior to, it's not that bad, but also gives me a real good history if I know that this is what the history is. So don't feel like, oh, he's, physically not ready to go, or he's not going to have the best numbers. Well, he may not. That's fine. But get that experience. Anytime you get on stage and in front of people, in front of your peers, you're going to sink or swim. Anytime you do that, it's going to, just like if you're in you're at a play at school, you're in the drama club. Anytime you get on stage, it's going to help you as a person. It's going to help you get better. It's going to help you move forward.
You got to be addicted to being on stage.
Exactly. Whenever you get into a baseball game, if he goes to college to play baseball at a good level, he's going to be in front of a couple thousand people. There's going to be 35 other guys on the other side trying to make him not do good. And there's some pressure there.
How many showcases do you think is actually like worth it?
Well, all of them are worth it.
Yeah.
There's not one that's not worth it. Whether, you just got to make sure that you get the right feedback back from those showcases. There's not one that's not.
So it's almost like you got to figure out what's your pace and obviously budget, and what events that you want to target. So it's almost like you have to view it as a whole year where, it's just like, I think about it as like the Olympic trials where these guys are like, okay, this is where I'm going to go here. This is what I'm going to do at this point. This is what I'm going to do here. Basically, you're planning out your whole year, and these are the spots that I'm going to make my mark.
Well, we talked about it in our episode of Stacking Experiences. The first time you go to a showcase, and like what Coach Pratte said, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be deer in the headlights. You're going to be looking around at all the other players. You're going to be intimidated by the moment. And my advice is you don't want that to be your junior year. You don't want that to be when it actually counts. Or whenever you're junior year, sophomore year, you don't want that to be when you're actually doing some recruitable things. If that's the first time you're doing that and you're actually out there, you can showcase some good stuff, but you're nervous and you're overdoing it and you're not comfortable, that's not good.
And it'll show in your videos.
Correct. So maybe even you asked how young. Well, if you do it as a 14, 15, 16-year-old or whatever, and before you're actually doing recruitable type of things, you're still gaining experience with it. You're still now, the next time you go out, now you're not trying to overdo it. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're very comfortable. You've done it before. You've been through the process. And then the next time. It's like when we talked about going to those national team events or those big showcases. Well, when you come back and play for your high school, now it's not so fast. Now it's not so big. It's not as intimidating because you've been to different experiences. So that's my advice.
No, it's great. I agree.
All right, guys, that's this episode of The Closing Pitch. Please give us a 5-star review, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Thanks.